to my channel, welcome to a brand new video. I should probably organise this first. Sorry, I'm really tired, I don't know why I know I'm tired. Anyway, before we get into this video, my name's Amelia. I upload weekend vlogs, book videos, book vlogs, stuff like that. Mainly book videos at the moment. I'm really into doing that. I feel like I feel like this is becoming more of a booktube channel than anything, with a bit of like vlogs in mixed in, and I'm happy with that. I think that's kind of the route I'm going down now, because that's just kind of like what I'm more into. And before this video, if you do enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up, please comment down below, please subscribe, and please follow my social medias that are linked in the description. And without further ado, let's just get on with this video. Okay, so for this video, I am doing something I just really wanted to do, and I feel like it's quite an easy video to do. It's not like I have to do too complex. It's not a vlog, it is just a sit down video. I haven't done one, but it is another book video. I haven't done a sit down video for a while, that's what I was trying to say, but it's another book video. It is actually talking about the books that I would love to read for the first time again. Because I just would, if I could go back in time and reread them again for the first time and not know what it's about, I would do it. But unfortunately I'm not going to be able to, but I wish I could. So that's what this video is going to be about, and I'm just going to go and start straight away. I am sure if you've watched my other reading vlogs, or you've seen my Instagram like book highlight, or even my TikToks, you'll probably know some of the books that are coming up. But most of the books on here are TikTok popular, or BookTok popular, BookTube popular, Bookstagram popular. They're well-known books. So I'm sure if you've watched other booktubers, you kind of know what's going to come up, because I do get a lot of my book inspiration from other booktubers. So yeah. But I'm just going to talk about them. So first of all, I'm going to start with the ones that are like not standalones, because none of these are like a series, but what I mean, ones that haven't got another author. So basically, like some books that are done by the same author, so like 3 books by the same author, etc. So we're going to do the ones that I've only got one by each author first. So we first of all have The Fine Print by Lauren Asher. I did this as one of my reading vlogs. You wouldn't think I want to read it for the first time, the amount of like times it compared to some of the other books that are here, but I absolutely love this book. I would love to read it for the first time. I think it was a very interesting book. The dynamics between Rowan and Zara, the differences they had, and the amount of times he kind of like, I guess, played her, but in some ways they also, the way they fell for each other, it was a beautiful love story in some ways. And I think it was an interesting story, because you hear so much about both of their pasts and everything else that's going on. So for example, Rowan's past and why he's working so hard on the Dreamland, whilst then you've got Zara, who absolutely loves Dreamland and would do anything to like help it. I think the dynamic between the two of them was great. As I said, the trope was amazing. I think from what I remember reading, it's the enemies to lovers relationship, and I absolutely loved it. So I would love to read that one for the first time. The next one is Archer's Voice. If you haven't watched my reading vlog, not my recent one, but the one before my booktube is Choose My Books. The reading vlog before that. This is one I was reading halfway through. I was halfway through reading it and I decided to start the reading vlog, but I absolutely love this book. I think it was beautiful. Archer and Bree's story, it moved me so much. I actually didn't realise there was an epilogue at the end that I missed. I actually need to read that. So I need to got that little bit to look forward to, but I've obviously read the whole thing. Like, their story is just, the way it started, like Archer is mute, so he doesn't speak, and then you've got Bree, who obviously can speak, and the way their relationship connected, and they connected to each other, and then they fell in love, and the story, it was just beautiful to read, and I felt like I was reading a movie, and I would literally love to reread this book and go back as if it was the first time. It moved me, it made me cry, it shocked me, it was beautiful, and it's just without a doubt one of the best books I've read this year, hands down. It's the cutest love story I've ever read, and I never thought I'd say that about a book, or a book after Colin Hoover books. Next one is one I did read for my most recent reading vlog, apart from It Starts With Us, is Kingdom of the Wicked by Kerry Maniscalco. I can't say the last name, Maniscalco. This book shocked me to the core of how much I loved it. I would do anything to reread this one, or read it for the first time again, because it was just so good, so gripping. I've got 2 more books to get on this and read, and I will be buying it probably in December as like a Christmas present to myself, because I do want to get the Addicted series, but I've got to save for Paris, and there's so many books in the Addicted series, so I'm just going to wait. So, but this book, it's about a girl called Amelia who had a twin sister called Victoria. Victoria was killed, and they are witches, and there is the King of Wrath, who Amelia summons in order to find out what happened to her sister, and it's just such a different story to what I have ever read. Like, I don't read books like this. It's such a fantasy romance book, and I'm very excited to read the next 2 whenever I get them, and also whenever I get a chance around to them, because I have 50 something books to read. We're not going to talk about that, but this book, just if I could read it for the first time, 100% would do it. The next one is one I read quite a long time ago, and if I'm honest, I don't remember much of them, and you can see when I started tabbing, because this is horrible to look at, but it's definitely fine by Amy Lavelle. I bought this in the works for £2 because it looked interesting, and I actually fell in love with this book. Please ignore how bad the tabbing is. You can see when I got better at tabbing. For example, I mean, this still isn't the greatest, but compared to this, it needs some work. It needed some work. But this book is about a girl who lost her mum and is still trying to figure out her life around that feeling. Like, she lost her mum and is like now having to like try and make sure her sister's okay and her dad's okay, and she's kind of forgetting like her own life happens around it, and it's all about like mapping her way around like her life now that her mum's no longer around. Like, the person she would go to for advice is no longer there to give her advice, and it's a really sad, funny. It's a story that you probably wouldn't want to find funny, because it is such a sad, raw topic. But they put the comedy in it as well, and I absolutely love this book. And I read this back in like probably, I think it was about March time, February, March, and I would go back and read it again if I could. I think this is what I did for my first ever like proper reading vlog. This was probably the first one of it, and I would hands down go back and read it if I could for the first time. My next one is With This Kiss by Carrie Hope Fletcher. So I have been a massive fan of Carrie Hope Fletcher for a while. She does like acting like on West End. She's coming back to do pantomime at the Marlow Theatre in Kent, so I don't know why I'm promoting that for her, because she doesn't need me to. And honestly, pantomime's my favourite time of the year, and I really wish I could go see it, but it's fine. But I've loved her from that, and I loved her YouTube videos. I've never read one of her books. I've actually got another one to read somewhere on my bookshelf somewhere. But I've never read any of her books until this one, and I read this one as my first book of hers. Was not sure what to expect. I was like, I'll like it, but I probably won't love it. I was so wrong. This is about a girl called Lorelai who can, every time she kisses someone, she can see how they're going to die, and so she tries to avoid kissing people, and it's her way when she meets someone who she really likes and falls for, but she's really scared to kiss him, and all this because she's scared of how it's going to affect her relationship with him when she finds out how he's going to die. And so the challenges she faces is incredible, and the story it's so touching, and I absolutely loved it, and I would die to read this again. Well, not die, but I would love to read this again for the first time. It was so good. I finished reading it just as I just nearly got COVID. So I just about got COVID when I started reading this. When I nearly finished reading this book. It was great times. But I love this book. We are now moving on to the ones where I've got like multiple books by the same author. We are going to start with Taylor Jenkins Reid. I've only read 3 of her books, surprisingly, and after Queenie, it was the first book I read was one of hers. So yeah, I need to get back into that. I've got a few more on my bookshelf. I think I've got 3 more? Yeah, 3. Anyway, that's off topic. So we have 2 books. And we're going to start with the first one I read of hers, which was 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. And as you can see, there is a bookmark in it. And that is because I am properly going in and annotating this one, because I really want to annotate this book. Like, I'm properly like writing in it. I'm like writing in like my clear post-it notes and like tabbing it, like properly like delving into the story. So it's gonna take me a while to do it because I'm reading other books as well. I haven't actually done it for a while, but yeah. So I'm only on like chapter 6, which yeah, but I absolutely adored this book. The story of Evelyn Hugo and her like 7 husbands and her best friend and Celia and her daughter and also Monique, and how her story, how Evelyn's story ties into Monique's life. It's the way that came around. I was so shocked. I'm not going to say what happens obviously because if you haven't read it I don't want to spoil it too much for you, but this was an incredible book, and if you haven't read it I recommend it. I would do anything to read it properly for the first time, because even rereading it I'm like, I'm not getting the same excitement as I did when I first read it because I've already read it and I know exactly what happens, but I loved it and I literally would do anything to read it again. Next one we have is Daisy Jones and the Six. This book, again, Taylor Jenkins Reid, she couldn't do any better. It was interview styled. It's about Daisy Jones, who is a singer, and the Six were a band, and then Daisy becomes part of that band, and it's just a dramatic story all the way through. But the way they did it interview style, I really enjoyed, because you kind of felt like, I loved reading magazines when I was a kid, so I kind of felt like I was in that zone of reading a magazine interview, but in a book, and it was so good. And the way it came around, I think it was just a beautiful story, and I just didn't see the ending happening, but I found it really cute. Would do anything to read this again. It's based in the 1979. Well, no, it's based in like the 60s, I want to say. Or 50. What's the first date? I can find out. Around the 1960s. So this book is a fucking great book, and I would definitely recommend it. I didn't tab this one either because when I was tabbing kind of at that point and I stopped. Also, I was reading this while I was doing the show, but absolutely love this book and couldn't recommend it more. The next one we're gonna go with, because we're gonna leave my other favourite, as you know, till last, is Christina Lauren. Now, I didn't think I was going to like her books as much because I just didn't know what her writing style was, didn't know who she was really. I just heard about her on BookTok and BookTube, and I was like, I have to give her a try. So I've actually got like 3 of her books, and I've got 1 still to read out of the 3 I have. So we have The Unhoneymooners. So these are 2, but we have The Unhoneymooners, which I read for 24 hours reading. I read this in a day because it was 24 hours of reading. This book, I have to say, I would literally loved it. I can't. The fact of Olive and Ethan, like, they were enemies. They had to end up going on the honeymoon for Olive's sister and Ethan's best mate. Because the bride and groom and everyone else at the bridal party got food poisoning except Ethan and Olive, so they had to fake date and fake being married whilst on the honeymoon, and then yeah, it ends up like, you know, you can tell where it's leading, but it's just the dramatics behind it. There's loads of dramatics, and I honestly loved this book and couldn't recommend it more if I tried. Then we have Love and Other Words. I didn't actually rate this a 5-star. I think I rated it 3.5. But I still would love to read it again for the first time, just because the dramatics and how Macy was planning a wedding to someone else, but then she runs into her old best mate, Elliot, who she fell for, and then finding out certain things of their past. And like, because I'm pretty sure, yeah, you have the story of now and the story of then in between each chapter, and the way the story is told, it breaks my heart, but I absolutely loved it, and I would do anything to reread this book again, because even though it wasn't my 5-star rating book of the year, it's definitely it's definitely a good story and a cute story that if I was feeling sad, I would just love to reread. So we are moving on to the final author. I have 4 books, 3 in person, 1 not in person at the moment because I lent it to a friend. That I'm going to talk about, because we all know who's coming. We all know who is coming. It is, and if you didn't, you really haven't been watching my videos, clearly. And also, you just don't know. But you're ruining my video. They are ruining my video.
I'll bring the bottle into the bill.
Anyway, it is of course Miss Colleen Hoover. I have 3 books here, like I said, and 4th one. And I'm just going to talk about the one that I've got the other one away because they tie in. So It Ends With Us, which was the first Colleen Hoover book I read, and then obviously the other one I'm going to talk about is It Starts With Us, which is my most recent. If this is up when I get it up, my most recent reading vlog was It Starts With Us reading vlog. But It Ends With Us is the first book of it, which is the story about Lily and Ryle, but also the past between her and Atlas, but Lily and Ryle mainly. And we all know, if you don't know, Ryle is an arsehole. We don't like him. Not on this channel, we do not like Ryle Kincaid, how he says his last name. We like his sister, and we like his sister's husband, but we do not like Ryle. Lily, I think, is such a sweetheart, who's been through a lot growing up, and then she meets someone who, okay, he was a red flag from the moment he walked in the door, and you read about him. Yeah, he's one of those people that every girl loves a bad boy. It is a typical thing. It's also a typical thing to think that a girl who thinks she can fix them. But I think also Ryle he gave red flag from the moment he started, but he didn't give like proper like bad vibes. Like you'd think he was gonna be he has an edge. He's a bit of an idiot. He's a bit of a dick, but he's not gonna be as bad as he comes across. He actually ends up being in the book because they start the relationship and it's cute and it's happy, and you don't think he's gonna do anything bad until you start reading more about her parents' relationship, and then you read more about what happens to them. You're like, oh, okay, Ryle, you can go to hell. But this book literally had me in a chokehold from the moment I started reading it. I actually remember reading this, and I was like probably 60% of the way through, and I got home. I was at a party and I had been drinking, and it got to about. I got home at like probably 11:30 because I worked the next day, and I stayed up till I don't remember what time just to finish it, even though I was tipsy, because I wanted to finish the book, and I'm very glad I did because it was so good, and I would do it to reread it again. And then you have the sequel to this, which is It Starts With Us. This book I've read in the space of 2 days. It had me in a chokehold. You can check my review out in my previous video, but I would do anything to reread it again. Like the story, Lily and Atlas is the story. It's nothing. I think people were expecting a lot more grittiness because of this book. Even I was, but I'm kind of glad it didn't. I think there's something I wish they had put in that book, but I also am glad it wasn't like this and it was more lighter, because a lot of Colleen Hoover books are not light to read. The book I read just before It Starts With Us, Hopeless, was not light to read. It was very intense to read, so it was kind of nice to have It Starts With Us, which was a bit more lighter. So yeah, I would love to read them again. Then we have Ugly Love, which was my second book I read of Colleen Hoover's. Again, this tabbing is bad. I don't remember tabbing it until now. This is the story of Archer and Tate. Their relationship. Is it Archer? Miles Archer. So Archer's in the name. Miles and Tate. Miles doesn't want a relationship because after what happened with his previous relationship with Rachel, he doesn't want to go through that again. So he's just looking for friends with benefits. And Tate thinks she can change him, basically, is what happens. And the dramatics in this book had me in a chokehold again. I still think about it and I'm like, oh, I wanted to read that book again so bad. It's just such a heartwarming, well, not heartwarming, it's quite sad. The story and the way the twist goes, Colleen Hoover and her twist, I love, but this story is just phenomenal, and I would do anything to read it again. And we have one final book. I told you it's not going to be too long, but I probably rambled on. Is Reminders of Him by Colleen Hoover. This is one of her most recent books before It Starts With Us. And this book, I genuinely wasn't sure how I was going to feel about it, but I knew I had to read it. So I ordered it, and I read it, and I fell in love with it. This is about Kenna, it's about Kenna and Ledger. And Kenna was dating a guy called Scotty, and then gets in a car accident, and he dies, and she goes to jail for murder. Well, kind of like murder, but she didn't get put for life, so it's not fully murder. It's complicated. I'm not going to spoil too much about it. But then she has a baby, and then Scotty's parents take custody of that baby, and she gets out of jail and does anything she can to try and reunite with her daughter. She meets Ledger in a bar where she pretends her name is Nicole, which is her middle name, and then she turns up at Scotty's parents' doorstep trying to like see if she can see her daughter, and then that's when Ledger finds out who it is and the dynamics between them. What I loved most about the story was not just you hear kind of story and you can hear the other side. You can understand the thing about this story is you can understand both sides of the story, and you can understand why they didn't want her see. The parents didn't want Kenna meet her daughter, but you can understand why Kenna's coming from it. It was very heartwarming, and you had Ledger who was in the middle because he was falling for Kenna, but he was also like had an oath with Scotty's parents, so it was very difficult because Ledger was Scotty's best friend. But it was a very moving story. This book I actually loved, and actually it's definitely one of my favourite Colleen Hoover books I've ever read, without a doubt. So yeah, now I'm going to put these, it's now like probably it's a 10 and I need to put these books away, so I'm going to end this video here. If you did enjoy it, please give it a thumbs up, please comment down below, please subscribe, and I will see you again very soon with another video.